I'm Terri Malik.
And I'm Jared Treadway, and we're inviting you to co-create with us.
From our home base in North Central Texas.
We're hosting conversations that nourish our mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual intelligence.
We are about being spiritually physical.
And physically spiritual.
We are about inspiration.
And aspiration.
We are about involution.
And evolution. We're about self-exploration
and self-excavation. We are about each of us coming to know ourselves in our fullness and wholeness,
so that together we serve the expansion of human consciousness
with the gifts of our specific genius.
Welcome to 33 North, 96 West.
Hello, Jared. How are you this morning?
Good morning. I am well and so happy to be having another conversation with you. And literally since our little email exchange yesterday, I've been on the edge of my seat, like with giddiness, thinking about what we're going to talk about. So glad to be here. How about you? How are you?
I am wonderful. I am glad to be here as well. Very exciting. To our audience, welcome to 33 North, 96 West. And you will see, those who are watching the visual, will see that I am inside my RV. We have full rain today, but my location is in the Grand Teton National Forest. So I'm so glad to be coming to you live from here, even though it's raining and we couldn't do our recording outside. The energy is amazing. So today, the energy of individual energy and the individual energy field within someone, and that and the relationship of that to the collective field is a strong topic that is coming up for us. So it feels like a good place to begin this episode.
The great Matthias De Stefano, that I know I've referred to him in previous episodes, used the question as an analogy to explain the plurality of consciousness. But the question he used was, and this is kind of relative to the idea of the Big Bang. The Big Bang occurred, and all of this separation occurred so that the source of the universe could answer the question, what may I become? And so now we're all having individual life experiences, and I definitely believe that we have life experience after life experience after life experience. And it may not even be fair to say that there are differentiated life experiences. Once we kind of observe this from our source perspective, it's just like one continuous experience. That's a whole other conversation, but we're here in plurality so that the source of creation can learn about itself through the experiences that we're all having. Even though we're one, we're now having separate experiences in plurality in this dense third dimensional space. So as you're moving through your life experience with your sphere of influence, all of these subtle bodies, and doing your work as best you can to kind of embody and individuate and keep in mind all of these various aspects of who you are. What is the impact that we have as individuals on a collective field? What do we do with this energy that we're perceiving, that's moving through our sphere of influence, that we're transmuting? That's where I want the conversation to go for today.
So what is coming to me regarding that amazing introduction to where this conversation is going is to kind of give an analogy or an example that you are a container of energy. So you as an individual are your own container of energy. So meaning you have your own energy field, your own energy imprint, your own energy blueprint. And of course, that's dynamic as well. So that can always be changing. And then that energy field that you are emanates out, emits out, ripples out into the world, if you will, into the collective field of energy. So because energy is so dynamic, and it's neither created nor destroyed, it's just always ever moving. One of the strong things shared is that emotion, the word emotion, means energy in motion. And so we as a physical vessel always have energy in motion within us, but also without us, moving within us, but also moving out from us. And being mindful, being aware of that. Some of the words, phrases used in psychology is becoming more self-aware, more self-responsible. It's a form of managing energy, if you will. So when you understand that you are that, and you recognize that I'm not just within this physical vessel and only this field, but anything I do, every choice I make, every word I speak, every belief I have, every behavior I have is moving out into that field of energy. And so I get to have choice. I innately always have free will and choice of how I want that energy that is not only held within me, but that also emanates out. How would I want that to be? And I think that may or may not be a way to kind of lead into this topic. Would love to see what you think from that, because it's first bringing our awareness that energy is ever moving and everything is energy. And then being mindful of, okay, how would we like to, for lack of a better word, manage our energy? Or how would we like to, I'm going to rephrase that. How do we want to exist within the dynamic energy? What would we like to choose to exist in and emanate out as our energy field or imprint or blueprint?
Yes. Actually, and I like the idea of the question you've asked, and it's actually inspiring within me more questions, but I think the questions are the answer. So let's play around with questions for a little while on this train of thought. Mm-hmm. How do I best serve my higher purpose in this situation? I mean, think about the power of that question in the moments of everyday life that, sometimes we get caught up, we're busy, we're doing things. Think about just asking yourself that question, and even not a particularly challenging moment, but just all what we perceive to be ordinary, mundane moments of life. How can I best serve my higher purpose in this situation? Or how about this question? What do I want the intelligence of the universe to learn from me in this moment? Because you see, a lot of people may not have thought about it in this way, and honestly, I mean, I believe this is true, but I think that this is the leading edge of creation. There are a lot of people in spiritual communities that talk about different dimensions, life on other planets. That's not where I want the conversation to go today. But I think that Earth is a forward edge, leading edge experimentation of consciousness. And like we are, by virtue of the experiences we're having, like in a big way contributing to the evolution of all things in the cosmos. So what do I want source energy to learn about itself and what's possible in this moment? A lot of people in the New Thought spiritual community, there's been a lot of talk about the law of attraction and what we're manifesting, and learning how to manifest the life that you want. And there's tremendous value, I believe, in giving attention to all of those modalities of thought so that you have a better idea of what's going on with the energy. But one thing I want to make sure that we at least consider in our talks here on 33 North 96 West is that we are not only creating individually in isolation, but we're creating collectively. We are collaborating on the future that we're conjuring up. And kind of, as you said, by coming into an awareness of understanding what your energy is, where you are, and gently kind of processing that, then you move into a space where you realize that you're cooperating with the evolution of our reality, of the experience we're having, of all the systems. I mean, this is real world stuff. We're doing all of this together. And so how do you serve that? What's the highest way you can meet the experience or contribute to that evolution?
Excellent questions. I want to point out, and this is a topic that we will expand upon definitely in the future, but I just want to bring it to point, if you will, for where this might go, is that I won't be able to recall the exact way you said it, Jared, but this is to support what you said about source experiencing itself. What can source, kind of learn from itself? So what I want to point out is that we are source. We are here as source. An aspect, and each of us have our own individual soul, our individual blueprint, our individual physical vessel, everything. We have that own individual aspect because we are here incarnate in physical form as source, and it's source experiencing itself through this physical form, in form. So it's the marrying of the formlessness and form. And so I just wanted to reiterate, because you had said that in such a beautiful way, that when we recognize that, when we are able to be more in that source consciousness, God consciousness, as opposed to being in separate consciousness of I'm just by myself here trying to make it, that's when we get into the phase of just going through the motions, just trying to get by, survival mode, all of these phrases that we could put to that, which brings in the fight or flight, all of these aspects that are part of the human experience. But when we remember that we are of source and not separate, that we are here to experience that in this physical form, and then embody that, bring it into the physical body. So we're bringing source into the physical and expanding into the various frequencies, the infinite frequencies that entails.
I think that I have a neighbor down the street that is not of source. I don't like him very well. He's mean to me. Can
I'm just throwing my hands up and smiling at the camera. I'm just like, I don't okay.
I'm just lightening things up, and I wanted to just
yes.
do that because, of course, this is absurd. The point I'm trying to make is that there is no exclusion in this.
Right.
And we are all really in this together. And by virtue of what we're doing with our own consciousness, we're contributing to, conjuring up what future is coming for us. We're doing that together. And that's the big, I think that's a big takeaway that feels good for this episode, which is that, of course, there are personal, I'm going to use the word small self goals, ideas, desires that we have that we want to manifest in a life experience. But there are also higher self desires and goals that we all have, that we all wish to manifest in this life experience. And we each individually have tremendous power in influencing the direction of things. And it's not necessarily always by virtue of what we physically do, like the actions that we take in life. It's more about how we be. And you and I have talked a lot about that too. Like, once you kind of understand everything's energy, I am a tuning fork. I am a container, an emitter, and a receiver of energy. If you think, honestly, that is a brilliant way just to define who you are. And you don't have to go much further than that. You are a receiver and an emitter of energy. And once you start kind of processing that and then observing what's happening in your life experience from that paradigm, you're like, no, wait a minute. I can lift up everything that I see in my experience. And if you bump up against a neighbor or something that it's too hard for you to lift up, don't worry about it. Be gentle with yourself. Just turn your attention to something else that you can lift up, something else in which you can see source, you can see divinity. And I promise you, because I've experienced this, and I think, Terri, you'll agree, and I think I've spoken to many who have experienced this. If you just start each day, say, I'm going to be nice today to everything that I see, and don't beat up on yourself if you're not. Wake up the next morning. Today, I'm going to continue to be nice to everything that I see. And don't beat up on yourself if you fall off the wagon. The next day, wake up. I'm going to be nice to everything that I see and everything that I encounter. I'm going to bless it. I'm going to give it. I'm going to give my attention to the aspect of everything that I see that is divine, that is of source. I want it to know that I'm focused on its highest self. I'm going to hold space for it there in the upper reaches of my awareness. And even when you watch the news or look at your Facebook feed, can you do that? If you can't do it, then turn it off. That's okay. But I think over time you'll realize you have tremendous power to uplift everything. And the more of us that can do that, the more we are accelerating the evolution of collective consciousness and everything that is toward this kind of new, feel-good, ecstatic, delightful future that's coming.
Absolutely. And, I'm just going to kind of share a little more, a real example here, if you will, is that I'm mindful, aware of, and make choices to live purposefully, deliberately, simply. And this is something that has really, really, really enriched not only my life, but the lives of all those that ripples out to. So I want to say that humanity, I think, is an absolute beautiful, it's a beautiful species. It's a beautiful experience. The humanity and society overall are really filled with so much wonder and beauty and light. Now, many of you might think, okay, she's obviously in denial. Where is she living and on what planet? Because so many don't have that perspective and they don't have that view. This is a choice that I have made over and over and over in my life, is I do see the divinity. I see the light. I see that in others. I always have. And that's what I really am. I guess you'll just, to make a simple word, anchoring in to here to earth and for that experience. So wherever I go, and I do travel full time now, wherever I go and whoever I meet, I do meet them with that. That, as you were saying, being nice, for me, I just always feel love for everybody. It's not about a relationship I may or may not have with somebody. It's just, I just automatically have so much love. And so I share that, I smile, I say hello, You could strike up a conversation, whatever it is, that elicits a response in them that is also of that energy.
Mm-hmm.
And it just happens and it ripples out. And the next thing you know, you've got a group of people sometimes around having this beautiful conversation about life. And it just doesn't hold the density, the dense vibrations that so many maybe have been taught or led to believe that is humanity. That is our world. That is what we're dealt with. We're dealt this. We have to live it. We have to experience it. There's no way around it. But we don't.
We don't.
We have choice. We don't. We that's a choice.
Yes.
We are making a conscious choice for it to be different because we are creators. So I can create a reality that is what I desire. And the way I do that is by not giving energy to what I don't desire, what doesn't resonate with me. I don't give it active energy. And I do give active energy to what I do desire, what I desire to be of the highest potential and possibility that we have within humanity and within a societal experience.
Yes. You've just brought it all home. And I want to dovetail off of what you've said. It's not delusion. It's not burying your head in the sand. The truth of what's happening here is that there are 7 billion human beings on this planet. And some of us are having realities that are dense and heavy. And I'm going to say there is real suffering in this world, and that's a serious thing. But we all experience contrast. The question is, what are we going to do in response? How do we meet the situations that we're facing? And there are those of us who are committing ourselves to this lighter, more joyful experience. And there are those of us among us who are not, and there may be some of us on this fence. But these are just different ways, different ideas of experiencing this reality. I mean, all of this is available to all of us, and you've hit it home with the idea of choice, which this concept of choice has come up in several of our episodes. But you have the authority, the right, and the privilege to make that choice.
And we are inspiring and empowering people to remember that.
Yes.
Because society is not going to remind you of that. General society. I don't mean there aren't people out there. There are. But general society still has, there are aspects of society that still have a lot of that oppressive energy.
Hanging on to the density.
Yes, hanging on to the density. And let me just use some phrases, some words that are of density that got a helicopter going over. They do helicopter tours, of course, over the Tetons. So somebody's getting a great view right now.
Yeah.
How fantastic. Let me just share some phrases, and I'm not trying to bring by any means the conversation to density, but I want to give real world examples of the teachings, the conditioning, the programming that is out there that, let's see, for example, there's the energy around you're not enough. You have to earn it. You have to earn your worth. You're not worthy. You're not enough. You are less than. You are lacking. You are suffering. You are struggling. These are just some examples of the energy that is expressed out there. And I'll just give one example, for example, through mainstream media. I don't watch the news. I haven't have access to that for a long time, but I still am aware of what's going on in the world. I am aware just enough to know the energy of it and the experience of it. And then I come back to, okay, what would I like to give energetically to that, if you will? How would I like to express that? So there's so much density around that energy that, yes, it creates fear, it creates pandemonium, it creates chaos. I could go on. And so we can choose that to be our experience. Or we can choose a different experience. And again, like we both have said, it doesn't mean you're in denial. It doesn't mean you're stepping out of what's going on, because this is also could be another topic. But the collective, there is a whole unified collective out there. But then there are many, many different levels, if you will, of the collective. So, for example, when Jared and I have conversation, we have a very symbiotic energy, if you will, an energetic space or container that where we can have the symbiotic conversation, this very more aligned energy around what we're sharing and what we're discussing. But, somebody that, maybe just right over here, if you will, somebody right down the road or right next to me or wherever can be having a completely different collective experience. So the collective field, going back to, again, kind of what was discussed earlier on, is that we have choice to expand out of the density of that. And we get to choose, okay, what part of the collective, if you will, am I going to be emitting? Well, I'm going to be emitting to the entire collective. So that's not the right word. I'm always going to be emitting out to the entire collective. But what do I choose? What do I want to choose to emanate out? Am I going to really give a lot of dense energy to that, or am I not? And it really does, in my experience, every day it works. I can give so many real life examples. And I go to places where somebody might say something to me, or I recently did a trip where I traveled to several states. And yes, I travel full time, but this was actually a pretty quick, fast trip through 5 states. And I will say that I'll just give examples without going into too much detail. But I would walk in a store. Let's just say it was a convenience store, and I would go in there for my purpose to purchase whatever it was I went in to purchase. And I would be confronted by people that worked there. Sometimes they didn't even work there, but I would be confronted, and certain questions would be asked of me that was coming from the collective energy of what was being shared out into society that we should all be very concerned about and enmeshed within, and all of that. So I would be asked a question, whatever the question was. It's not always the same question. And I would just very clearly, with a smile and with nothing emanating out but love and compassion, I would answer their question. And I would even follow it up. Well, thank you for asking. I would just have this engagement with them that would throw them off.
Mm-hmm.
And I do this often. And I'm not coming from an intention to manipulate or control or anything. I just am being me and my essence. And I'm just answering truthfully. I'm not explaining it. I'm not getting into the energy of it at all. I'm just answering, saying thank you for asking, smiling, and going about my business. And every time it works.
Yeah.
There is no more, there is no push. There is no pushback. And it's just, I really have never had pushback that was going to create such a conflict that I couldn't just continue to stand in my own energy and answer. And so I share that because I see it happen all over the United States. I haven't traveled outside the United States. Haven't had that opportunity with everything going on. But within the United States, I'm able to just do that wherever I am. And so what I want to share, a real example here, is I have 2 choices. I can go into kind of a pattern that I was taught and programmed and adopted and did for many years. I can go into that program of fear, oh my gosh, I'm uncomfortable. I'm feeling the energy that they are feeling and experiencing. And I'm going to take that on, and I'm going to make decisions that aren't in alignment with me or in alignment with what I want to emanate out into the world. It's that simple. I can drop in and recognize, what is it I truly want to put out? I want to put out that I emanate love out.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to shed light on the fact, maybe I don't usually use the word fact. I want to share light on the possibility, for you to consider the possibility that you have choice.
Yes.
And that I am exercising my right to make a choice. It's that simple. I'm just going to exercise my right to make my choice, and I'm going to inspire and empower you to do the same. And I don't care what that is. I don't question it. I don't judge it. It's your choice.
Yeah.
All I want you to do is make your choice.
Own that you have one. Own that you have one.
No, own that you have one, and then make that choice in alignment with what is truth for you.
Yes.
Which that's really what it is all about for me. And what you're doing is you're giving that person permission to honor them.
Yeah.
To me, that's really what it is. Give other people, whether it's through a smile or love or words or all of the above, I want my energy. Let me just put it that way. I want my energy always to be giving you, each individual, permission to also honor your own power of choice, your own free will,
yes,
your own energy.
Yes. Yes. That is exactly yes. Thank you, Terri. So Terri and I were having so much fun with this conversation that we went for almost 2 hours. So for your benefit, we have taken the liberty of dividing this episode up into 2 parts for you so that you can listen episodically if you'd like. So this represents the conclusion of part 1, and then we will publish part 2, and we're publishing them both together. So if you'd like to continue listening, you can just click on through to the next episode. As always, thank you for being a part of this, and I'll see you on the other side.